Good morning and welcome. If you are joining us now, I'm Reverend G, and I'm the minister at the Unitarian Universalist Community Church. I am delighted that you chose to spend this time with us. The year was 1986. I was 16. I just dated myself. And I still lived in Transylvania, which is part of Romania. And my family is Hungarian. Transylvania, after the Second World War, was annexed to Romania. Before that, it belonged to Hungary. So Hungarians became the world's largest minority. And we were quite oppressed in Romania. According to treaties signed after the Second World War, we were supposed to be granted quite a few human rights, which were curtailed every single year in every possible way. And it was difficult to be Hungarian in Transylvania. I remember being stopped on the street for speaking Hungarian, and I was shouted at, told to speak Romanian because I ate Romanian bread. Even the bread had nationality. And we experienced oppression much like maybe African Americans in the past, although that still happens here today, and it still happens there today. I witnessed an old lady being slapped on the face by a strong Romanian guy because she was sitting. She had a seat in the bus, and he thought she should be standing since she's Hungarian and he should be sitting. So there were these atrocities. Also, Hungarians, there was a quota how many Hungarians could have higher education. So how many Hungarians could go to college or further on. So it was very difficult for us to get higher education unless we were creme de la creme. But even that didn't help so much because there was also cheating. So it was just a very bad system. What I'm getting to is, if you had dreams for your future, the likelihood of them coming true were small, minimal. Life was hard. It was also communism. Goods were not available. You may have had money, but you had nothing to buy with. In the winter, there was no heat because it was controlled by the government. Imagine that people are living in these we call them blocks, these apartment buildings. And there would be another building, that would be the furnace building. And that furnace building would supply hot water and heat to a bunch of these apartment buildings. So whenever they shut it off from the central building, nobody would have heat or hot water. So I remember a winter when I thought I would never warm up again. They would just shut off the heat. They would shut off the warm water, hot water. They'd shut off. We'd have electricity a couple of hours a day. It was hard living. So it's 1986, and there's the other thing. You couldn't travel abroad. That you couldn't just keep your passport at home. Like I now have a passport here at home. You couldn't do that. So if you chose to travel abroad, and you could only travel within the communist bloc, then you had to apply for a passport. So the whole family would put in the application, all of us. There was 5 of us. We all put in the application we want to go, and then they would approve 1 or 2 of us. Sometimes they'd approve the 2 youngest children. Like, where are they gonna go? Minors, they're gonna go travel abroad now. Well, this one year, all of us got approved, and we went to Hungary, and we had a family powwow, and we decided it's time to leave the country. Hungary has a border with Austria. Austria is Western Europe. Hungary was still communist bloc then. Austria is Western Europe, and we should go to Austria. So we just have to figure out how to cross the border without papers. We didn't have visa for Austria. Our passport was for Hungary. And we ended up going to a agency that sells airplane tickets. And we told them our sad story. We said, we're a family. We can't take it anymore. And we wish to leave. So these people were like, oh, wow, well, you can't really buy an airplane ticket if you don't have a visa. We can't issue it to you. So they said, oh, come back tomorrow. So we go back tomorrow. And they said, okay, we're going to give you tickets. You're going to board the plane on such and such date. And the person's checking the papers. In other words, they'll look away. And then you will land in Austria. And then you'll be somebody else's problem. Because the point is that you land in Austria. And so we were supposed to leave the next day. And us kids were very excited about leaving. We were young. I was 16. My middle sister was 2 years older, and then the other one was 6 years older. So, life was ahead of us. And we knew how few possibilities we had in our home country. My parents were middle-aged, didn't speak. They only spoke Hungarian and Romanian, didn't speak other languages. We kind of spoke English because we picked it up from movies with subtitles. And we spoke some German, the kids, the children. And so we were excited about going. The day came, we woke up, and my dad said, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't leave everything I've worked for behind. There's that house, we have furniture, we have a lot of amazing paintings that we collected over the years, books, friends, family, roots. I can't do it. I just can't do it. And we ended up not doing it. We couldn't do it. I mean, I could have, but my dad couldn't do it, and he called the shots. So instead of going to Austria, we returned to communist Romania for more cold, for less food, for more oppression, for more of the same, because my dad couldn't do it. It is not easy to leave one's country. When was the last time you contemplated leaving the States? I mean, why would you contemplate it? You go to the store, the shelves are filled with goods. Well, maybe not quite today, it's becoming a little bit, but it's been well supplied. You have a job, you have an income, you have your social network, you have your support system, your family, your roots, the house, everything you built, everything you accumulated. When was the last time you contemplated leaving? What would have you contemplate leaving the United States? I mean, you have freedom of speech. You have a lot of rights. Why would you contemplate leaving the United States? The ones who leave usually have a very, very good reason. There's a small minority, a small number of people. They are the adventurers. They would leave anyway. They just want to explore different cultures, a new world, new possibilities, people, meet new people. They just enjoy. They get a rush from that. That's a very small number of people. And the rest leave because they have a very serious reason. And most don't even leave if they have a very serious reason. Most still stay. Just like my dad couldn't leave. We had plenty of reasons to leave, and my dad couldn't do it. Just couldn't see himself starting from scratch, learn a new language, figure out a culture he knows nothing about. live in a country he's never been to. We knew that we wouldn't end up staying in Austria. Probably we would end up immigrating to the States or Canada. So then have that in our lives too. It's a lot, people. It's a lot. It's not easy to leave your land. Now, people have left their land. And in fact, one of the first stories in the Bible is about Abram. Back then, he was called Abram. And God tells him, leave. Leave the land of your father and your father's father, and then go to the land that I'm going to show you. So pack up everything, your wife, your livestock, your servants, everything, and go. And Abram obliges. He leaves. And because the way I read the Bible, this is how I interpret it. Abram looked around. He said, "It's got to be better somewhere else. It's got to be better than this. I'm just gonna go." But of course, it's the Bible, so God told him to. And he leaves, and he goes to the land of Canaan, and he sets up camp there. And then from there, it doesn't matter. He goes to Egypt. So Abram travels. Well, but then it's Abraham. And but it's not easy to leave your land. In fact, it is quite difficult. So when somebody leaves, they have a very serious reason. And if they have a very serious reason, then maybe they should be met with compassion as opposed to prejudice, alienation, rejection, and obstacles. The reason they're leaving is because life is difficult enough already. There are so many obstacles to a good life that they think those obstacles are less than coming to this country and facing the obstacles of immigration here. What if we could be compassionate with them? Now, there are those people who are in favor of the US receiving more immigrants. And so often I hear these arguments coming. Well, first of all, we are a country of immigrants. I'm an immigrant. I live here. I'm a US citizen now. So the way I might convince somebody is to bring up these super immigrants. Albert Einstein, if he hadn't immigrated Europe, if he hadn't come here, we wouldn't have had Albert Einstein. Albert Schweitzer, Nikola Tesla, you name it. I mean, I have no intention to name these super immigrants. Because to every super immigrant, there's tens of thousands of just everyday immigrants, very common immigrants like me, who come here, lead a decent life, who come here because it might just happen that we can make our dreams come true. Because life might just be more possible here than it was in the land of our fathers and fathers' fathers, where we had roots. We don't leave because it's easy there. We leave because it's very hard there. And we're willing to take on this hard here. So I don't wish to speak to you about super immigrants. And that if you have any misgiving about us receiving immigrants, I don't want to convince you with the super immigrants. I want to convince you with the decent people who come into this country, and they're janitors and physicians and engineers, and they work in the service industry, and good people who build this country, who enrich this country with their own special cultures, their special flavor, and make this country more beautiful, more vibrant. The problem is, you see, that we call them, and I think this term was coined on purpose with malice, illegal aliens. If I tell you alien, what comes to your mind? The last thing you will picture is a human being. And now you call them an illegal alien on top of that. So, what we are doing, first of all, we are dehumanizing fathers, mothers, children who are in desperate need of safety, of a new home, of a new possibility, of just the possibility of life. We dehumanize them. We call them illegal aliens. And then we erect obstacle upon obstacle and stigma. We attach stigma to them. We say, oh, they're not sending us their best people. They're sending the rapists. Well, we don't say. One person said that, and some believe it. The majority of us, I'm sure, don't buy that. So it occurred to me, all things being equal, let's take a look at who are we sending to the world? Who is emigrating from the U.S.? According to the DOS, Department of State, we don't keep good records of who's leaving the country. We don't really care about that. The reason we know anything is because we still require them, unless they give up their U.S. citizenship, we still require them to pay taxes, even if they earn money abroad. And who leaves? Who are we sending? Well, okay, I looked into it, and we're definitely sending the ones who broke the law and they're running from it. Maybe not the best people. We are sending some professionals because maybe it's an American company or an international company and there's a job and they're sent for a job abroad. There are then these people also who fall in love with a foreigner and then they marry them and they decide to make a life in that country as opposed to come back to the States. So we're sending them too. So people who break the law, people who are going abroad for a job, those in love who get married and decide to stay there. We're sending a lot of the elderly whose income is tiny, who don't have access to good health care. And they determine that in another country like Ecuador has a lot of expatriates. I don't know how to pronounce that because I'm an immigrant and this is my third language. So Ecuador has a large contingency of US retirees whose money stretches farther over there than it would over here, who also get very good health care over there, possibly better than here. These are the people we are sending. So you see, we also are consumed with questions like, when they come here, what are they taking from us? Instead of asking, what could we give them? What could we give them? The first thing we could give them is coin a different term for them other than illegal aliens. What would be a compassionate term? What could we coin? So we call them that, which humanizes them, which, when we say it, when we hear it, might just awaken compassion in the hearer. So instead of what are they taking from us, is what could we give them to help them? They've been through hell already and back. How could we help them? Find a new home? It's hard to leave, it's hard to make a new home. How could we make it easier? Also, what are they giving us? What are the blessings that they are bringing? The colorful culture, beautiful traditions, good human beings. Now, sure, there's always criminals in every group of people. And sure, immigration had been an issue for a number of nations who kindly received immigrants. I mean, there was that time when purposefully this group of people brought to the natives smallpox. Wait, what? Smallpox? Who brought it? To whom? How did we become so harsh towards immigrants when this is our past? How can we allow ourselves to disconnect from our heart and be harsh and prejudiced and unkind to the stranger? So please, remember when you see an immigrant that there's a human being with feelings, with a past that we have no idea about. Chances are what they've been through, you can't even imagine. The very fact that you have never considered emigrating means you've lived a life of comfort, security, and safety that these people haven't. So, what if we become the generation who turns a kind heart towards the one who needs to leave the land of their ancestors to make a new, safer, more possible life here with us? How could we come together and coin a term that is not illegal alien, but that describes the human being with a painful past and hopeful aspirations, dreams for the future? A decent human being with contributions to make to our society. How could we do that? I'm pretty sure we can. I'm pretty sure we can change the culture if we put our minds to it and our willpower, our wills to it, but most importantly, our heart to it. So remember, it is better to connect heart to heart, to be kind to the stranger, and then pretty soon the stranger is no longer a stranger. They are just one of us who might speak with an accent, and we're all richer and better for it. Fear not, love one another. And so it is.